Alright, Omar, thank you for joining me for this little interview here to let the public know about what the situation is with Naruto versus Ichigo. I'm going to go through a list of questions that I prepared, and we're going to keep this as formal and mature as possible, while also answering pretty much like everything that the public wants to know. So,
Awesome.
how you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too
Good.
bad.
And-
It is very good to have you to speak to, especially like in general everyday life, because you're such a nice fucking dude, and you know,
thanks,
working on
bro.
my story, working on
Yeah.
animation stuff. It's good to chat with you, man.
Hell yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And it's
Yeah.
gonna be awesome. And thank you for having me on. I do appreciate it.
You genuinely deserve to have your story told, because I can say throughout the entirety of all the work that I was ever a part of with Naruto versus Ichigo, I didn't have a single bad experience with you. Even if you wanted to constitute like a redesign of a face or a character as a bad experience, like that literally isn't one. So I can say in full confidence that you've been nothing but nice towards me. In front of Seth, whenever I've been there, you've been a nice guy. And every time I worked with you, it was a pleasure. So I just want to clarify that before we jump into these questions.
Likewise, and honestly, thank you. I do appreciate that a lot.
It's all good, man. Thank you very much again for joining me. So, all right, I'm going to go through all the questions now. So the first one is, to your knowledge, and I can answer this too, but how did the project actually start? For those of for those who are listening that don't actually know, like what's your understanding of the project? And I'll tell you mine.
Well, so I randomly got told by Seth one day that he's thinking about doing this and that he needs animators. And I, on a whim, whilst in uni, was like, screw it, okay, I'll get the storyboard started and get it rolling until other animators can be put on board. And that kind of never happened, and I ended up doing just the entire storyboard with you guys. But I'm pretty sure it was mostly, correct me if I'm wrong, but you trying to convince him that we should, or that you guys should?
This is what essentially happened. So around 2017, I edited the Akatsuki versus Espada for him, and this was the first time that he ever had anyone edit for him, and he was really impressed by what I could do, because my editing in my videos at that time was already better than anything he had done. I just had a smaller channel, so it was like, yo, I'll edit this collab so we can collab together. And he was like, sure. I end up doing it. He's really happy with the performance and the chemistry and the response from the public. And it actually turned out really damn good. Plus, he got paid from a sponsor that I also did the recording for, and put that all together for him, and just managed the video in general. At this time, like I said, he hadn't had an editor at this point. And then what happened was that we decided, let's do Madara versus Aizen. We had like a back and forth on what we thought about it at the time. The scaling and all that stuff is just, it's irrelevant. The point was we decided to collab on that video, and once it was banged out, which you're aware, that was quite the shit show of a video, because I had to edit it was like an hour video, but it was like an hour and a half of like, you know, raw content to go through and fix up and clean up the audio and the footage and all that. I had to do that in what was essentially, you know, like 48 hours.
Yeah.
And usually I would never edit a video that long, that fast. A video like that could take me 3 weeks, man. Like to do it to a level that is what I would consider like up to par. And not only was he rushing me and like expecting me to get this done to the point, it was like to the point where he's like, I'll just do it myself, man. And I'm like, what I did at this point, right, was it was never motivated by money, but I was like, I'm going to crank this out as fast as possible. And I skipped Christmas. I drank like 5 cans of energy drink to stay awake for literally 2 days, not even kidding. And I got it done in time. But the thing that sucked about the situation was, right, was that video could have been delayed, because I wanted to do the video in a formatted, structured way, where like we would have written scripts, and we would record bits and pieces as we go and put it together like what Death Battle does, right? And he just wanted to do it off the cuff, and I was like, dude, this is like unprofessional.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, it must be a lot of pressure to do a video like mine, huh? And I'm just like, dude, I've been doing content like yours for years beforehand. And like it was way more structured, and it was just ridiculous. But I also didn't want to do it off the cuff because of my actual health problems at the time. Made it really hard for me to improv stuff, right? And I had memory problems, sleep issues, and plenty of other problems at that time. And I was like, dude, I really don't want to like do this off the cuff, and I wasn't comfortable doing it. So we delayed it for a day, and and even with the delay, right, it still would have made no difference how hard it was to edit that video. I got the close to an hour-long video done, right? Skip Christmas. I was then paid for it, and at the end we announced Naruto versus Ichigo. And a lot of people don't know that it was because of me actually doing legitimate like slave labor, right, and doing it purely just to prove like, yo man, I can make us a fire video. Let's keep collabing. Because before that, when I asked to collab a lot with him, he was like, he's like, have some self-respect, like, you loser, and stop asking me to collab, and he's called me a messages and stuff. This is back like during literally the worst point in my life, right? And he's gonna deny this crap, but like it was stuff that was said to me a fair bit through messages. I was purely just like, hey man, you wanna like VC and stuff, you wanna like hang out, make videos, and his response is like, oh, he's just trying to leech off me. And then I ended up transforming his content with the editing and the announcement of Naruto versus Ichigo at the end of that video. And then the next thing you know, within the next few years, that project actually came to fruition, and then you were pretty much like the manager of the whole thing, right? When it comes to the whole animation aspect.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I'm pretty sure the Madara versus Aizen thing. So I did the thumbnail for that one, and he was talking to me about all those things as it was happening. I'm pretty sure I've got it in DMs where he's saying that, oh, Clyde's taking too long and all this stuff, and it's just unfair and not how you should work in a creative environment, to be honest.
It was really ironic too, because at that point, he had neither had editing up to that standard, right? And my 2017 editing, right? I'm not going to say it was good, but it was much better than most of the guys in the community at that time, right? He had neither edited that way himself, nor had anyone edited for him that way. That's why I became his main actual editor throughout that time period, because he got me on board, and I like offered to edit like 20 videos for 4K. He rounded off to 5K, and then I was working with him for the start of 2018 up until a year ago, and like it was just really silly because you yourself, right, seen the DMs where he was downplaying like how much work I had to do, and he was trying to put the blame on me, and I'm like, bro, I'm literally like putting myself in harm's way, like, to get you a video done in such a short amount of time. And it was just ridiculous how much, like, I never got, like, more credit for that. Like, it did become a joke where it was like, yo, it's funny as how, like, Clyde stayed awake for that long and all that. And I always had the screenshot of the actual video being edited and so on. And, it just is ridiculous. Well, I think it's good to hear that even... Yeah. I
was going to say, I think just the fact of having to lose a Christmas over editing a video to get it out on time is enough of that's not okay.
Yeah, it was silly. And also, I want to reiterate too, I actually just wanted to impress him with the editing and make a cool video for him, and that's how our relationship started. And even back then, when I was doing him a legitimate solid favor, and this was back like before, finances were a big expectation of editing for him, like it's like, bro, like you literally were gifted someone who was passionate for you and your content and wanted to be friends with you, and you just like, he was already being shitty about it even back then. But anyway, as you being the lead animator of the project, as we go into question 2, I want to ask you, so obviously my involvement gets downplayed, and I've always tried my best not to actually take too much credit, because I have no intentions to, be braggadocious like that. And I also never wanted him to feel insecure, because he did, contribute the majority of the finances towards the project itself. Now, I'm just going to ask you straight up, what do you consider my involvement in the project, and like, what did I do exactly in the project too? Like, I'll let you shine my pole a little bit.
I was gonna say, I'm excited for this question. You did a lot. Let me just put it this way: we would have never have got the Bleach art style down if it wasn't for you. The scaling wouldn't have been as good if it wasn't for you, and none of the like Ichigo set pieces would have been enjoyable for the fans without you. There's so many times where you sent me various clips of like how something should look, different things that we hadn't thought about in terms of the fighting, down to like how sometimes spiritual pressure can look when you're blocking an attack. There was one big thing, which was the hands. At the beginning, I was drawing hands really clumpy and fat. And one key thing that helped us get the art style correct was you showing me how slender the hands were and making sure I got that right initially. And that bled into everything else. You were also, and very, how shall I say it, particular about the faces for Ichigo, which is a hard thing anyway to do. But because of that, it forced us to get a really consistent, good-looking Ichigo, potentially more so than the anime at the time. So yeah, you did a hell of a lot. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure you even paid me out of your own pocket.
Yeah. And it's not even about the amount necessarily. I did go out of my way to pay you directly, because I wanted to also show Seth that he could stop being paranoid about me. That was one of the biggest issues with the project, was his revenue was coming from me editing for him. Now, it's true he was making money before we worked together, but me editing and transforming his channel with the standard of videos that were coming out, to the point where MJ and Chuck were like, yo, your editing's cool, I really see like how much work you put in. I was really skeptical about fully committing to this, because I was juggling his channel, my channel, his business email, doing things for him 24/7 if I was ever needed at the drop of a hat. So it's like, how much do I want to commit to a project where at the same time he was also abusing his position of power and causing me issues almost daily. There was almost daily drama where it's like, if I get a DM from him, I'm like, damn, I don't even want to reply. But if I don't reply, it's going to cause problems because he gets paranoid. And that was a big issue. So I appreciate that you highlighted that I did put money towards it. It wasn't like a crazy amount, but it was as big as some of the bigger donators that had donated directly to the project. And the fact is, though, here's another thing. Even if I did donate, the money comes back to me anyway because I edit for him. So I always found it kind of redundant. Like, wasn't part of the fuel for the train me, the editor, and helping him manage his channel. So it was sort of silly for me to even put too much into it. I only did it. Seriously, I only put money into the project just to make him happy because I was like, all right, he'll probably trust me more. And like, that was the reason, because it was so hard to actually work with him just with normal things. And it was really annoying to deal with that. But I do appreciate you giving me some credit in that sense. And I got a question. From all of our interactions, you and I, throughout the project, would you say it was good to work with me? Like, I was never rude to you?
No, absolutely. You were always kind to me, considerate. You always would give me constructive criticism without, like, being cruel as well. Like, you were just a delight. You were always kind to me. I'm pretty sure you guys even did a birthday stream for me once, playing Resident Evil.
Yeah, I think we did, yeah. That does sound familiar.
Yeah.
But I know every time we're in call, it was like, bro, it was like being in a house where like a domestic dispute was going on because, bro, the way he would talk to you was so uncomfortable for me to sit around, and I was like, well, I can't really like step in and say anything, man. It's gonna make things awkward as hell. But like, you would cop it pretty hard to the point where it was super awkward to be around, and like, he would hate to call you. Like, I'd know he'd be like, hi, here we go, gotta call Omar, or it'd be like, yo, get ready, let's call Omar, so I could do the majority of the talking and stuff like that. And
I do remember that a lot.
It was a pretty common occurrence.
Another thing is too, Omar, do you remember when he tried to get me to
Basically negotiate with you and decide, yo, Omar, you should probably, like,
not accept any payments from us and just wait till the project comes out, because all the money we're going to get once it releases will be worth it, bro. Like, you should do it for free. It's an investment, man. Like, do you remember when that happened?
I do remember that. That was in the very beginning, but luckily that wasn't a thing that I agreed to at the time. Yeah, that was something that he tried suggesting.
Yeah, he got me to do that, to speak to you.
Yeah, he also tried doing that with his other project that I did work on, and that's where the few months of free work I did for him come from. But that project never came to fruition. Well, before we go on to the next question, though, I do want to also say that as to other things you did, there would have been no voice acting at all without you. You were the one who organised all the voice actors, got the main man himself, who I won't say now because I'm not sure we're allowed to, but
I guess we could say it was the real Ichigo voice actor. It was we almost got the I don't want to say we, because I don't mean we, not including you, but like I almost got the real Naruto voice actor, which was something in the past impossible to get on his side. I secured Johnny Young Bosch. I secured Kat, the woman who did the voice acting for Naruto's Chibi voice, which was the second best option that we had. It was still an official voice actor, and we're like, all right, that's cool. I also had a backup plan, which was the Ichigo Bridge one, and then plenty of other things like that. But thank you for giving me credit there too, because that is something that I always sort of low key forget about. Where it's like, wait, I actually sort of did help them get some pretty important things for that project. That if it wasn't there, because that was actually a big deal too, wasn't it? I remember there was countless times where he said, if there's no proper voice actors, it probably won't happen.
Yeah, and then he was saying something along the lines of, let's just do it without any voice acting at all. And I was like, I don't know. And then you stepped up and got it. And not to mention, there was one night in particular where you and me went through all the voice lines of a different character in the thing, and went through it together, choosing.
Because he had said to me, Seth had said to me, he didn't want to sit through the voice acting sessions because he found it cringe, so I had to manage that. And then you and I did it with the going over those lines and picking the right ones for the animation. Yeah.
So without you, it wouldn't be where it is today. It wouldn't be the thing that it was, and it wouldn't have been as well as as much of a well-rounded project without you.
So I know that I guess I manage the majority of the Bleach stuff. Would you say that the project in general, just to give some clarity to the audience, would you say that the actual majority of the project in general wouldn't have even hit where it was without my involvement? Because
absolutely,
obviously, we give full credit to Seth. Like, you used your passive casual anime income to pay for it. That was real hard to send over PayPal payments. Like, I do, shed a tear for that. Like, pressing a few buttons is pretty hard. But that being said, without my assistance and making sure that I did go over, because actually that's funny, because I do remember whenever he would kick me off the project, he would go to James Hansen and ask him for help. So that was a consistent thing too. But yeah, I guess without me, I really did assist a bit, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Without you, the project definitely wouldn't be where it was. Don't get me wrong, I will give credit where credit's due. Seth did do some good directing. But yeah, no, the project absolutely wouldn't have been it wouldn't have gotten off the ground without you. Let me put it that way.
I appreciate that, yeah. He and I did revise, like, plenty of scenes together and so on, and that's, like, without a doubt, because it was a mixture of, like, his passion for Naruto and then, like, my strictness to make sure that the Bleach was represented correctly. And, like, I just wanted it to look like Bleach, and you highlighted that with the face designs and the hands and stuff, and making sure that the way Ichigo fights in the battle was right. I had some issues with it where, like, I would just keep my mouth shut because I didn't want to influence the project too much. And I said that to him, like, listen, I'm not even putting as much money into this, so I don't even want to, like, speak. Like, I have the authority to do this. But then he'd be like, man, we try all the time to get you involved, me and Omar. And I'm like, you don't understand that, like, I don't enjoy working on this, bro. Like, this is not something I even want to be a part of because it's so unenjoyable. So he would say that as a counter argument, but I'm like, you got to understand, it's not even fun to be a part of this. Like, and you're expecting me to be, like, hype and bouncing off the walls to be a part of it. Like, fuck that, man. Like, it just wasn't that exciting. Here's something interesting to talk about then. You can recall multiple times where it was secretly cancelled too. Like, we're not talking, like, you know, the cancellations of last year, but how many times can you recall the project actually getting cancelled, or, you know, him causing me drama and then, like, getting rid of me, and then, like, it would just be stopped, like...
So I'm pretty sure you were gotten rid of twice, and then the project itself was secretly cancelled 3 times. That's why it's taken so long to make. Like, it's not just the fact that there was only just me working on it, basically. It's is that the project, after, like, halfway through the storyboard, was cancelled because Seth thought it was ridiculous and cringe, and, like, he didn't like the fact that it was longer or going to cost more than he thought it would, which at the time the section we finished and when he cancelled it was the cheapest portion of it, which was the full 22 minutes with all its iterations of storyboards. Also, not to mention, the whole reason it came back is because after we did a separate project, me and him together, he was like, you know what, I've been thinking about that Naruto versus Ichigo again. We should do it again. And I could tell it's because you knew the fans wanted it. You also had passion for it. And then we came back. It then got cancelled again when you left. And then
it was more like this. It was more like he comes at me in DM and he's like, you're a trash tier friend, you don't care about me, and this is out of nowhere. And I'm just like, dude, go f*** yourself, do the project by yourself. I'm not dealing with this. Because, like, it was to the point, I literally said, I'm like, what more can I do for you? I have shown concern. I spend time in call with you, sometimes 12 hours a day. Do you want me to lick your fucking asshole? Because that's where it was getting to. Seriously, that's where it was getting to. And I have the DMs. Like, I could show people the DMs. It was ridiculous. Like, so, and you would put up with stuff like that all the time, where just on the drop of, you know, at the drop of the hat, he would just go off at you for no reason or accuse you of shit that you didn't even do.
Yeah, one of the worst experiences for me. So, for context, when we first started working together, we worked together on his manga, and he stopped working with me because he thought I was stealing from him because he thought my rates were too high. At the time, they were half my regular rate, and I explained to him that I'm not stealing from him. It's just that he's not used to working with artists in this capacity, which he accepted at the time and was fair enough. But from that beginning point, he's always felt that I was quote unquote stealing from him. The worst situation was in Call with You Both when he, I think, was playing League of Legends with you. It was in August of 2020 or July, and I was trying to get specifications on how a certain scene should go. I had done something based on his fairly vague description of what he wants to happen. I did an example. He thought it was which is fine, that happens, but he wasn't being clear with me about what he wanted. So when I asked for clarity, he flips out on me, and when I expressed that I was just asking for clarity, he got angry and said about me being a victim. He was so angry that he didn't want to speak to me, and then that same day or the day after, he said that he's looking for someone to replace me on the project, and I said, that's fine, I understand that. I hope you find better. But he was furious at the fact that I simply wanted clarity on what he wanted. I wasn't being antagonistic or anything. And you were there in the call.
I was in the call. I remember. It was a pretty common occurrence and stuff like this would happen where you would get abused. And one of the bigger issues was that he was so disinterested in the calls with you when it comes to updates on the animation that it was almost like you had to force him to tell you what to do. And it's like, dude, you're paying me to work. Like, if I fuck this up and come back and it's fucked up, you have to keep paying me. So it's your fault if you don't go over this with me. So that was really silly. It actually ties into two other things too. So I always do downplay my financial involvement in the project, but I also did manage his business emails just to help secure huge fucking sponsorships for his videos. And one of them was like $20,000, right? As an example. Here's another thing too. All the payments he ever gave to myself or the animators on the project, like you and all the other guys and anyone else that he's hired to do even something like a thumbnail or script work, that is all tax deductible. It's fucking work payments. He can tax deduct that. So any paranoia he had over money going towards the project, it's all for work. You can literally just write this off at the tax man, like, or go to an accountant and he'd be fine. So I always found that part really silly too, like this absolute paranoia of emphasis on you know, like the financial part of it and stuff, which, like, yeah, of course it was costly and so on, but it's like there were ways around this, you know, that could easily fix the situation, and that was always just weird. And then you getting accused of stealing. I was accused of stealing countless times too. Some of it was also interestingly tied into his paranoia of like dislike towards someone else, so he just like associated me with that and thought I was like scheming with that person to steal money, which was just really silly. But yeah, like, I mean, the screenshot right in front of us here, it's like this is from 2018, and it's like Clyde's always needed my help whenever randoms come to his server to slap him on Bleach. I can do Naruto versus Ichigo of equal if not better caliber on my own. So it's like, oh, I guess he can't actually do it on his own, because every time I'd be removed from it, he would just like, he literally can't manage anything by himself. So the project would get cancelled, or he'd be like, nah, I don't want to do this anymore. So clearly I was pretty pivotal to it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And to talk about the stealing thing as well, it's pretty ironic because the only people that were being stolen from were us. I know it sounds funny because we were being paid, but for example, I was giving him half of my normal rate, so I was being paid half of what I normally would. And then on his own other projects that I did with him that weren't Naruto versus Ichigo, I gave him up to 2 months worth of full-time work for free, because I wanted to show that I was trying to be kind. I wanted to show that I believed in him and his ideas, and I wanted to support him. Not to mention, he has taken credit for some of my works that I have not given permission for him to do so.
Oh yeah. He the people are gonna love that. Yeah, he would post Omar's art and would constantly refer to him being able to actually animate parts of the project itself. When, like, we actually had this funny call one time where he was trying to show you how to animate this portion to do with the moon getting cut, and he like drew the moon itself, or, you know, quote unquote drew. It was just like scribble on some Microsoft Paint, and I remember you and I, like, at the time it was a joke, but it's funny to look back on because, like, the dude can't draw, like, at all whatsoever. Like, that was actually funny that he lied to his fans about that, because we know he can't draw. Like, Omar's the one that did all the art. He did the Elden Ring art, he did the art for the thumbnails, he's done all the art for the project. Like, Seth did not do any of the art, and you were so nice to him that you even agreed to let him claim that he had done art. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I did say and agree that he could say that he'd done the harem scene, because at the time I thought it was funny, and I was like, it's just one scene, and it perpetuates the idea of Seth the boy genius, which is part of his brand.
That was actually the consistent thing with him, was the whole idea of like him being a prodigy and everything. Like, oh, Seth can draw, Seth can fight, Seth is a high IQ debater, Seth edits his own content, Seth manages these cool projects, he donates to people, Seth is just he's the boy wonder, he's the man of tomorrow. Like, that was literally the consistent thing with his character that was always propelled by us.
Yeah.
There was actually multiple times where I thought to myself and said to others, I'm like, you know, I would probably edit for him for free if it was like, you know, once a month or once every month or two to do one of these like big 30-minute videos, because it takes me a long time to work on them. But I literally said, right, I was like, sorry, if he was just nice to me, I would happily do that, but he never was. And that was like the thing with you too, it was that you were getting lowballed payment-wise and accepted a cheaper rate just to help him, and you had passion for the project. And that's the same thing with me, where it's like, I never complained about the money part, but every time I do tell people about how much work I did for him, which wasn't just editing, it was like being a 24/7 assistant, everyone's like, bro, well, you should have gotten more. And I'm just like, I didn't want more. I never wanted more money from him. It was never a motivation. Even now, I still don't want any money from him. It's just more, it's more the fact of like, I hate that my involvement was downplayed so hard. Like, I really had passion for the guy, like in every single way in terms of his content and wanting him to do well, but Yeah, it was the same with you too, and it just got shit on super hard. I want to ask you something too, which is interesting. When it comes to the promotion of the project itself, do you feel like he did fuck all?
Yes.
Like, especially if you compare it to especially if you compare it to that, not only the Patreon videos that I did, but I would help him structure tweets with announcements of stuff to do with the animation. Just for him to post so he can get a shit ton of likes. I'd tell him how to word the tweet, how to bait people into liking it, why a certain GIF from the animation would pop off on Twitter. And he'd ask me for advice on that, and I would help him. And I asked him multiple times. I said, can I post a GIF of a scene that I helped Omar with so I can hype up people on my side? And he just would never let me do it. Like, he'd always just pretend I never asked.
Which is, scum. No, without you, so... advertisement-wise, it was a shambles. I remember even if you look at how the trailer was handled when it was pushed out and how it was made, he fumbled the bag on that entirely. He didn't build up any tension, hype around it at all, and that he did was very lazy and slapdash. People have even said about it in some of his more recent highlight videos that he should have been advertising it at the end of most of his videos, like, hey, go support the Patreon and whatnot, but he didn't. And your involvement with that in some of the videos, and even on, I think, some of your own videos, saying that, like, to go and support the project.
Oh yeah, it was on the Mugetsu video, and that got 1.5 million views.
Well, exactly, yeah. Things like that is the reason why the Patreon did so well, and why everyone knew so much about the project.
The reason the second Patreon video never went live was because I didn't like how in the video his tone went weird in the video, and it was like I had to avoid any implications of me being involved too much in terms of the project. I was not trying to take any credit, but I'm over there putting a Patreon shout out on my actual channel to help him out, and still it's it was just silly. Here's what's funny too. So you remember when I made that mock trailer and put music on it to show how we could structure it so you had an outline? Do you honestly think that my initial idea for how the trailer should have gone was better?
Yeah, definitely. And there was one scene that he added in afterwards, which was cool and good, but yeah, it took us to, again, for context, I think the initial trailer you made was a year before we actually finalized the scenes that we wanted in the trailer, and before Seth came up with those ideas for it. So there was a lot of dragging his heels, to do anything like that. And the trailer version that we got in the end, I think, was the worst out of all three versions. There was one version, obviously, that you made. Then there was another version that someone else on the project did and we got music people to do our own score for it, which was really cool. But in the end, he decided not to go with that and went with a worse edited version with some random music from somewhere else.
Yeah, what was the I heard the situation with the music thing was really weird too, because I initially tried to get Smith G involved in the project, and after a week or so, and hearing how much drama I was going through, he didn't want anything to do with the project. And it's funny because I never told him to step away. He purely was just like, I'm not working with Seth, dude. This is bad news. And I was accused of trying to rat and get him out of the project. And Smith doesn't want to be involved in stuff like this, but he literally was never told once by me to step aside. I let him continue to be a part of it, and he just said of his own volition, I don't want to be a part of this.
Well, with the music people, I brought in two of my friends. Well, one of my friends, and he brought his friend. They're both professional music producers and composers, and we were creating some really good stuff. We'd taken parts from both shows, and they'd managed to merge them amazingly. And we'd got this great track. The problem was they were concerned about licensing and using too much of the original score if we didn't have the license. It would have been a simple thing of contacting the license holders and seeing what we could do. That was the point. But Seth didn't want to because he knew YouTube, he knew copyright and all that stuff, apparently. But these two were talking to their professional...
I've seen the screenshot where he was abusing you about that and saying he's like, you're an arrogant know-it-all, what are you, high IQ Omar? It was just unnecessary to speak to you like that in the screenshots, and obviously they're on the screen right now so you can see, but that was not cool to hear. What about this is a question. So with the original trailer I made, because I remember this, I stayed up really late and I made it. I got all the clips that were handy. I was like, send me the master and I'll do something with it. And then I got some music, I slapped it together, I made titles and stuff. I put everything in place, so it's all right, I know these are just really shitty Sony Vegas text, but I'm like, this is where the titles will go, this is where shit will bounce out, this is where the characters will fight, this is where the black screens will happen, this is where the music kicks in, and I then sent it to you, and I thought it was pretty hype, and he liked it too, and it like motivated us to pursue it.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like if you just literally just animated that actual initial trailer, right, that it would have been fine?
Yeah.
Because it was essentially like a skeleton for you animators to go off.
Yeah, absolutely. It would have been great. It would have been easy. We could have done that day one.
And that's an example of like stuff where I dedicated unpaid time, you know what I mean, like literally like to do it, and it was out of passion, you know what I mean, like, and I don't want to be paid for it, but it's just, again, it's like, this is my time being wasted. It's like when I would record debates for him if he needed to, or help him out with second channel content. Like, me editing for him was never meant to include stuff like Twitch highlights, but I still did it. I remember wasting like a whole 10 hours once doing a stream highlight that he never even uploaded. It was like this stream where we got donated close to 10k, and it was a really hype stream, and he just didn't upload it, and I just wasted time on it. And like, you know, if that was work, you'd be like, bro, where's my money for that? I wasted 10 hours doing that shit. So that was just that was really silly. What about this? Without me involved, would the Patreon have even existed?
No, not at all. Not at all.
The proof's in the pudding. The proof's in the pudding too, because he didn't want to assist you with the GoFundMe. No. He was absolutely against the idea of something like that.
And it's funny because initially he was, but then refused, which the whole reason why the project got cancelled is a whole thing, but like the final cancellation. But he seemed to be on board with helping me, and then when time came, he didn't want to and was very angry.
You wanted to continue the project out of pure passion, didn't you, too?
Yeah, and also because I felt like everyone deserved it. Everyone had been waiting for this for so long. There was still those who wanted to support it. We still wanted to do it. It just seemed unfair for all this to happen, a trailer to be released, and then nothing come of it. Especially when there shouldn't really be any big reason as to why not. And yeah, we needed funds, and Seth wasn't willing to give that anymore, which is fine. His choice. That's actually one of the least bad things. But to give the fans an opportunity to at least save it would have been huge.
Yeah, that's one of the funniest parts too, is I keep getting shamed for not contributing enough, but it's like, obviously people now know the intricacies and the nuance to why that was, but bro, I was never contractually indebted to do anything. No. Like, I was really involved with it out of passion. Like, I don't owe it a single dime. It's his. He was always going to benefit from the project too, and he scrapped the idea of the... Remember, there was a point, because you'll know this, there was a point in the project where he got rid of the idea of the actual fight breakdown. It was going to be just the animation. You remember that? It's like... do you remember that taking place where he was like, yeah, we're not going to do the actual death battle breakdown, we're just going to upload the full animation?
No, the reason for my is because I'm like, there was so many arguments, so many fights on, you should do it, because you wanted to do this to debunk Death Battle initially. This is how you got some of your huge following. You wanted to be the new one, like, and people want to see both of your analysis. It's the key thing of the video, not just the animation. So yeah, he kept trying to weasel his way out of that, but you were like, no, we should. And I was like, you guys should.
I kept saying it too, not even because I wanted to get a slice of the pie. I said it because that's what people were expecting. They were expecting us to break down the fight. Like, if it's just the animation, they're like, wait a minute, dude. Like, I mean, I appreciate how cool this is, but this isn't actually, like, the full thing. Like, we wanted to know who wins, bro. Like, that was a big part of it, and he wanted to get rid of it, which means, why am I involved? Why is Clyde in the project? I'm not there to be an animator assistant or be, like, someone that, you know, looks over it as a director. I was meant to be part of the project, and then his counter-argument is, then you should have donated more. And it's like,
what?
Oh, you editor, dude. Like,
that's not how it works.
That's
You donated plenty of your time, plenty of your effort. Like, I don't know, it's silly. And there's also the fact that, like, with the way it ends, it needs some sort of explanation, some sort of breakdown. And that's the biggest spoiler I'll give. But it does need some explanation.
Bro, he was mocking the idea of the Grimjow and Sasuke thing at the end. He agreed to it.
Yeah,
he agreed to the idea. Yeah. If he didn't want to do it, we could have not done it.
Yeah, he was the one who even gave final sign-off in it, saying, yeah, that looks really cool, when he saw it storyboarded.
Fuck yeah. And now he's calling it lame on stream and throwing me under the bus. We didn't ever have to do it. I was just like, how cool would that be to give him a surprise? And you know what the reason was? The reason was because we wanted to have Sasuke smack Grimjow, who's my favorite Bleach character, right? We're going to make the fight itself, like, shorter but really cool. And we were like, if we have Sasuke win, and because he would win, he's
Yeah.
just 2 hacks for Grimmjow, like, I'll concede that. But the point is, we wanted Naruto to have a really comfortable win. The
Yeah.
series of Naruto to have, like, a video that we did where they actually smacked another Bleach character, and we're
Yeah.
like, all right, well, Sasuke really would win pretty convincingly, because, like I said, like I said, he's 2 hacks. There's so much more we could go into than him. Grimmjow is just Ichigo without all of the amplified, like, power-ups and stuff that Ichigo has.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have an extra hollow in him. He doesn't have, like, a Bonkai on top of his Resurrection. Like, so it was really good at the time, and I thought it'd be cool as hell, like, having, like, War Arc Sasuke versus War Arc Grimmjow. Like, the idea of, like, imagining that fight in your head, it seems pretty cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, and also, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the idea that you guys would continue to do these VS battles in these ways and, like, kind of be a competitor to Death Battle.
Absolutely, and by that time, we're expecting, like, that Naruto vs. Ichigo would gain the kind of sponsors where one sponsor would be able to pay for the next project entirely. Like, that's what we were down for, and that was not impossible. Like, let's say we got, like, Budweiser or Red Bull or an actual company like Ridge Wallet to fully fund it, it would have been a possibility, and it's just a shame he mocked that idea, because we didn't have to do it, but he agreed with it. Like, he actually agreed to the idea, so him to mock me like that on stream is, like, pretty cringe. Like, it's like, man, we didn't have to do it if you didn't like it.
I think one thing to as well bolster your claim there is that he called the whole animation cringe. He was the one who paid for it and wanted to do it. Like, he then called the whole animation cringe. Considering he's calling the whole animation cringe and that last idea cringe, is just, I don't know, he's not very consistent on that.
No, and having to manage his random spur of the moment outbursts all the time with videos, let alone that project, was just too much to manage. It was literally like dealing with man, it was like being a psychologist too on top of that, and I just was not down for that. It was just too much. Let me go to the next one actually. So, you probably said yes to him doing this, but I want to mention this anyway. In the outro of his videos, you did the animation for him. I personally, you probably don't have an issue with this. I personally do, because it's part of that whole Seth the Prodigy bullshit that we all sort of propelled. He always had in his description and used to tell people that he animated his outro. Just for confirmation, that was done by you, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. But I do want to say that I was the one who asked him at the time. At the time, I had a issue with people like Mastar Media doing just straight rips of plagiarism on other people's animation, and I wanted Seth to be able to show that there were proper animators in the community, and the only way to do that was for him to take credit for that at the time. But yes, that outro is done by me.
And that did lead into him being like, well, now I can start saying that I have all these talents that don't exist, like telling people that he was able to draw the Elden Ring thing, do animation, and so on. He also stole so much of Omar's work, technically, by claiming it was his, that Omar couldn't use it for his portfolio.
Yeah, that's true. So, for example, like the Elden Ring thing, which by this point, to specify, with the Mastar Media thing, I'd grown out of that childish, like, vindictiveness. And I was like, no, don't worry, don't take credit for it anymore. That was silly of me. I made a mistake. And I do think that I made a mistake with that. However, he continued to perpetuate I'm the Seth Genius guy. I made new art, and took one of the best paintings I've done, which is the Elden Ring painting I did for him for his thumbnail, and then a few other pieces of work, which I can't remember right now, but they were taken out of my portfolio, and I'm not allowed to use them in my portfolio to get new work or even just show that I've done something.
But on streams, he has definitely over-exaggerated, like, his actual, let's say, like, yo, did Seth animate that? And if he hears that in the comments, he's like, oh, I can say yes to that, because, the chat will think I'm cool. So just constant, just cringe, wanting this, like, approval from all these random people that he will never meet all the time. It's so embarrassing. So, yeah, like, you did clarify that, like, you gave him permission for the original outro itself, but he definitely took that way too far and started doing it with other work afterwards. What about this one? This is a juicy one, which a lot of you guys are going to love. So, there was a couple of things I predicted that would happen. I predicted that we would be thrown under the bus. I predicted he would delete you off Discord. Lots of really beautiful things like that took place, and all predicted. So here's one. Seth told you to pretend to be sick so that he had an excuse to cancel the project.
Yes.
Isn't that true?
Yeah, that is true. Originally in the main sports Discord, he asked me to cancel the project and tell everyone, and I said I wasn't comfortable doing so, and he said, just tell them the lead animator is sick or something. And that was kind of because I am the lead animator, so I'd have to then say that I was sick, or that I wasn't even me, therefore removing any of the work that I'd done and any credit I get for that work. And And it also was just lying to the people who had supported it. It wasn't honest, and these people had put thousands of their pounds into this, so thousands of their dollars, pounds, whatever. And it just, yeah, it wasn't right.
It's like I said before, the tax option, the sponsorships, all these other avenues to be able to get finances for the project all existed, but he was being like, I don't want to call it prideful, because it's like, there's no pride in being cringe like that. It's more like his inability to be like, I need help from the audience, or let the audience know, and that's obviously why he was okay with me doing the Patreons, but he would never want to be like, yo guys, we need to use a GoFundMe to fund this project, because it's going to cost a bit more, and, you know, we need more animators on board, and so on. Like, he would never want to do that, so it just made things difficult. So his way out was, let's get Omar to tell people he's sick, so I have a reason to, you know, be able to squirm my way out of the project and say that it's cancelled, when in truth you were never sick. And like you said, that means you can't use the project for references. If you work on a future project and they're like, yo, didn't you tell people you were sick? Then people could chase you up years later and say, bro, did you scam fans?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
So that could come back to you in the long term. And you don't want to change your alias too, because you shouldn't have to do that for the sake of him lying.
Oh, exactly. And yeah, it's just, it's not right. And not to mention, there was no like intention of reimbursing fans. He did just want to hide and let it all go under the rug. That's why it was so hard to tell everyone and let them know. Initially, everyone thought that I was a scammer when I was trying to continue the project. And with the whole telling everyone I was sick, it then had to be a conversation between me and him saying like, look, I can't do that. We can't do this because it does X, Y, and Z. And luckily he did listen in the end, and we did get to change our answer, which right now I can't remember what the answer was, but it was something akin to, the project just can't be done right now. Maybe it'll be done in future. And he asked me to say that.
And that was fine. You know, that's fine too. That's actually a plausible, that's a pretty, like, okay answer to tell people that, where it's like, we need more time, because no one would have complained that way. It doesn't matter if it takes 10 years at that stage. It's a matter of like, well, guys, we're doing this as a passion project, and like, we're trying our best here. We're not an actual studio, so that would have actually sufficed. But him being weird like that, it didn't actually go that way either. Like, it was all on you.
Well, the worst part of all of that is when he said it might continue later. I asked him, oh, is that actually going to happen because of the way that it cancelled? And he was like, no, we're just saying that. So it was, again, false hope. Even if he says he has intentions to finish it, he doesn't at all. I've got multiple DMs with him saying that he won't.
Now, when you and I became friends again, because I was really like worried about even talking with you out of the fact that I didn't want to become, you know, seen as like as a rap person, or, you know, that I was like trying to meddle with the project, which I never was. I actually was just okay to talk with you. So once we started talking, I was telling you over time certain things that I knew that were going to happen with him. Like, I knew that by you telling him that you were just simply busy with work, which you were, you really didn't want to lie to him, and I was fine with that. I didn't want you to lie either. You just told him straight up, like, I'm busy with work. I don't know if I can work for you, because he kept coming back to you after abusing the shit out of you through messages. And I was like, just tell him you're busy, bro. Tell him the truth. You've got too much going on. And then he deleted you the next day.
Yep.
And then he tried crawling his way back to you. And I was like, don't do it, bro. He's just going to keep manipulating you. Your family members told you not to do that. Your girlfriend told you not to do that. And then the second thing he did, which I also predicted, was that he would then use me and you as an excuse for why the project was canned.
Yep.
And lied. He said that we blocked him for no reason. I blocked him on Twitter after he deleted me off Discord. I've got screenshots to prove it. And I have a screenshot, thanks to you, which shows that you attempted to message him and he had removed you off Discord.
Yeah.
So he lied to the public about that too and used us as scapegoats.
Yeah, and specifically with the removing me and adding me back, there was the so initially we said I said I don't have the time because I literally don't, and I told him my new rate because since we last worked together it's increased. As soon as he heard it, he was like, I guess we weren't meant to work together, said all this stuff and said it wasn't nice knowing me, even though I'd always tried to be a friend and kind.
Oh yeah, it was cringe. The reply was so cringe, man.
Yeah.
Then he just deleted you off Discord. And I actually told Omar, I said he'll delete your watch. He's going to get rid of you.
And the way that he tried... Yeah, the way he tried being friends again or talking to me again was saying that he misinterpreted what the rate was, even though in that initial DM, before he replied, he reiterated what the rate was.
Yeah. And then he proceeded to lie about the both of us on stream multiple times in regards to that, you know, claim that we got rid of him, which was never the case. I think at the end of the day, you had absolutely no obligation to add him back anyway, or talk to him, because he had treated you horrendous. The screenshots are actually mind-blowing. I couldn't believe, like, the amount of abuse that you were copying, and it was very similar to stuff that I'd been through too, but it was I guess with he and I just got used to it, and so did
Yeah.
you, which was really bad. Like it really was bad because you had said to me, you're like, I kind of thought I was the problem, and I'm like, no, bro, this is not normal. Like I haven't worked with a single other person in this community, like whether it be YouTuber or random person, not a single person has acted the way towards me or you like that. Like seriously, it's just
I was going to say initially, like, the reason why I continued to do it is because I could see that maybe there was a chance, or maybe he was misinterpreting things, and I always try and see the best in people, but yeah, it's just one of those things that it's not worth putting myself through that.
Yeah, and Omar, even with you giving him the benefit of the doubt, which like you did every single time that you and I talked about him, you were very defensive of him in a very positive way, and it's not like I manipulated you. I just told you, I was like, watch what's gonna happen, and I was right. And even with the DMs towards you, man, about like wanting to reignite the project or come back, it was just bullshit to use you, because like it'd be like, oh, Seth will be friendly to you for a day, and it'll just go back to the same crap again and again. So. I was right with the way that he worded that message, because he lied to you in the messages too, like you pointed out, by claiming like, oh, I didn't see the amount, or like, oh, I can afford that now.
Yeah.
Here's what's funny too. When he told people that he couldn't afford the project and wouldn't help with the GoFundMe, he then tweeted a day or so later about how much money he was making from his YouTube career, which was like $1 million.
Yeah.
And not only, again, is the money going into the project tax deductible, but there's actually other ways to get money for the project. And he's also claiming he's a millionaire on top of that, and making like a passive income of like 100k to 70k per month or something like that in a braggadocious way. So he shot himself in the foot because he told everybody a lie at the same time.
No, that's very true. I was very angry when the project was cancelled, and then I think it was a day later or the day of, he did that "I'm a millionaire" tweet from talking about anime.
I mean, he lied to the audience about the whole situation, and you and I multiple times, which is just, we've already sort of gone over that. But yeah, the whole thing of like, I cancelled the project, I told you guys, but he only told his Twitch chat, which was like 300 people, and then people were really angry in the comments about that. And then recently he started to lie, about what like why the issues were, like, oh, I wanted to do it again, but I got blocked by Omar and Clyde, which this is like, he hasn't talked to me in a year. And then with you, like, he deleted you. He also lied about the amount that the Patreon made to the chat, while Six was propagating those same lies at the same time. And he's probably been manipulated and lied to himself. So like, I won't give Six a heap of shit, because I don't really know him too well. But like him saying like him saying like it only made 1,000's complete crap because it made 10k. He showed me that in DMs twice, and then I showed you what it was making. It's just like complete lies, bro. There were individual donators that donated like 2,000 themselves.
Well, so that's where we can probably get into the really juicy stuff. And this is just more where I'm annoyed because I feel lied to as well. And I should have seen it, to be honest. So that 10k that was in the Patreon was in the first 2 months of the Patreon, correct?
It was around like 2 to 4 months, somewhere around that margin, but regardless, it's still incorrect what he actually said on stream. And I'm going to tell you something, so...
When he paid me to work with him, he gave me $10,000 to work with him for a whole year, which was at I believe it was the start of 2021. And basically, he was like, there's 10k. I'm like, all right, that's a year's rate. It translates to like 14,000 Australian dollars. And I'm like, that basically takes care of my rent for the year. And I'm cool with that, right? Didn't complain. Like I said, I didn't complain about how much I was getting paid. I still was doing the extra work and all that. This is what he said to me. He said, by the way, that money's from the Patreon. And I'm just like, oh, so my thought in my head is, well, he'll just replace that money and put that 10k, right, that's in his bank account into the animation project. Like, that's what will happen. So he pays me, and then he puts the money back, and like, that's just how it would work. So he actually confirmed to me verbally that like, that's the money from the Patreon too, not only through DMs, but he paid me with the 10k. Yeah. So well, it was just more lies.
Yeah. So he said that the Patreon was making at most 1,000, which might have been true at the end, but he had told me at the middle of 2022, or it was at the beginning of 2022. Either way,
he was talking across the whole board, by the way. Like, he said the Patreon in general didn't make much money. It wasn't a time dependent thing. It was just in general. He was talking to the audience about it.
It's more that during that time he had said, and I have the DM, which I think I've shown to you, which is that the Patreon and sponsors have been paying for me for a year, and I was the most expensive thing on the project. So to say that the Patreon wasn't covering it is a lie. And then the big sponsor I got him too, which you're aware of, I'm pretty sure he used some of that to pay you and some of the animators at the time. Yeah. Well, to be crystal clear as well, that was 20,000 you said.
It was close to that. It was about 18,500 USD. Yeah. I actually got, it was the biggest rate he'd had at the time, to the point that he bragged about it to our YouTube management, because our YouTube manager never got a rate anywhere near that when he would get his deals, and I managed to secure him one which, like, literally almost doubled the amount he'd ever made from a sponsor.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, he showed me how much the project had made, because I was trying to help him with tax and get it all deductible. The project in total seems to have only cost him 47,000. So considering the Patreon made 10,000 in the first 2 months, it's unlikely that he didn't put much of it in himself.
Even still with the total that he paid, there were months where he passively made half, sometimes 30k. So, like, again, it's tax deductible. Again, it was also funded by a lot of people, or at least we thought so. It's like, man, he was always going to benefit from this. Like, this was his creme de la creme. Like, this was his actual magnum opus video, which would have gotten 5 to 10 million views, maybe more if it actually popped off. It would have led to future videos, future big sponsorships. The channel would have grown, more donations on Twitch, bigger videos. Like, everything would have just trickled down and made more and more money. It's the whole thing of, like, you got to spend money to make money. Like, he literally would have profited so hard off of this. And if he actually listened to you and me, I remember back in 2018, I had a conversation with Trini where I said, yeah, I was even trying to, like, you know, tell him to get, like, an accountant and stuff, because he should really look into that, because if you get an accountant, which might cost $300 for, like, a you know, like a whole session, those dudes are literally there to help you make money. They help you keep your finances in check so you can take advantage of every tax loophole, every social government benefit, every self-employment benefit, every business benefit. Like, there are so many things that he probably could have got. Like, here's an example. He probably could have gotten stupidly big business loans to use towards the project, and the payments back would have been small.
Yeah.
It would have taken care of itself. Like this.
Well, it is just ridiculous, especially with how much the rest of the project would have taken, and it annoys me thinking about how much of the project the fans have put in themselves. Because if it all cost 47,000 in total, we know for a fact that they've done at least 10,000 of that. Like, the audience owns like close to a fifth of that animation, and he just didn't tell anyone and hid it. And hasn't refunded them.
He also said to you through DMs he doesn't give a fuck about the project, and that, like, he was at a stage he's like do whatever you want with it and so on. And then now he's claiming he's like no, it has to be done by me. And it's all like this massive big ploy to promote this potential podcast so he can just slander you and I in it, and then, you know, lie to the fans. And it's so funny. It's funny for me to sit there and read the comments, and no one has a single clue what's going on. They don't know a single thing. It's just funny. They're all just like, Clyde must be shady. It's like, you guys don't have a clue like what's going on in this project. Yeah, let's see. It is annoying too to again have to go back to this whole thing of like where it's like you know, Clyde's not grateful for how much he was paid or whatever, or same goes with you, but we always were, man. Like, I never complained about the amount I got, and now it might sound like, what do you mean, bro? Seth helped you out financially so much, man. Helped grow your channel and so on. It's like, no, dude. My ability to edit videos and work my ass off and, like, connect with him and then swag and everybody else. Like, my legit blood, sweat, and tears for this man, and how committed I was to him no matter how badly I was treated. And the same goes with you, is what paid these damn bills, man. I earned that shit, and I earn even more, too, on top of that, which is really annoying.
Well, again, let me just put it this way. With that one sponsor, he paid you 10k for the year. You gave him double of that in one video, helping him manage that. Like, you brought him more value than he gave you.
There you go. Yeah. Let's see. What's the next one? What about this? This is an interesting one because I've dealt with this too throughout the years. How many people told you to get away from Seth, especially people who worked on the project that were temporarily on the project? And this is a really interesting question because there were animators and audio guys and family members, to my knowledge, of yours that told you to stop working with him.
It was basically everyone. So all my art friends who I work with, they told me to get away from him. My family, my girlfriend, the audio guys who I got on before, who were only working with us for a month or two, they even said to get away from him and that he's not good news. And they had only experienced a little bit of him and what he was like. So basically everyone who has known about him in my personal life has told me to get away from him.
Yeah, mine was very much the same. A lot of my friends on Discord that I was very close with said that. They told me never to accept money from him again and to never work with him back in 2018. The problem was that I was kind of stuck working with him financially at that time. My channel wasn't profiting enough, and he had said to Trini through messages, this is back when we had drama in 2018, he's like, even if Clyde pays me back, which I was trying to do, I was going to ask family members for money. I was asking friends for cash on the spot. I'm like, can you give me like 2k to pay him back the rest that I owe him? He said in the messages, he's like, even if Clyde pays me, I'm still going to come after him. So I was stuck with him, and I've been stuck with him since 2018. And even every time that I've either been deleted by him or I've tried to get away, he still causes me issues and won't leave me the alone. I was planning to, for a very long time, to randomly send him $10,000 that I was going to save up and then be like, I'm sorry, bro, I wish you all the best, I'm going to leave. Like, that was a plan of mine for a long time. But I also knew that if I did it, that he would still cause problems. So I was like, when he eventually deleted me in 2022, I was just happy, bro. I was happy he did. I was like, there you go, you got your win. Now I can just go. And like, I'm never adding him back ever again. And he attempted to reach out to me twice, once through Cupic and then once through my Twitch chat, and I just didn't engage with it because I knew it was bad news, bro. It was like, it was literally like going back to a toxic ex-girlfriend. I've never had another male act like that towards me ever.
Likewise.
Seriously, like one of my long-term one of my long-term friends, Corey, that I've known for 10 years, he said to me, he's like, you have never dealt with this, right, sort of situation with any other guy. Why are you putting up with this? Like, seriously, it's ridiculous. Like, you wouldn't deal with this. Like, you know, people have heard me pop off on, like, Just a Robot on stream or go off on people on Discord and stuff for, like, talking weird. Like, I put up with Seth's crap for years, bro, purely out of the fact that I was really grateful that he'd helped me. And I just put too much stock in that. So that's some context too, to do with that. Like, a lot of you guys don't know that I was trapped with him. And he also... was keeping dirt on people to try and keep them in line, and I was one of those people. And at the time, I put too much paranoia into the idea that he could do anything to me with that. But yeah, that's the truth, man. I was actually stuck working with him when it comes to that.
There's also as well the situation that you should never have to think about paying back an employer to get them off your back, firstly, because he was employing you for your services, paying you for one. And I know that's not entirely what your relationship was, but to even have to think about doing that to get away from him is bad. And
I mean, he fucking lied to Swag, bro. He lied to Swag and said that he just gave me the money as like a random donation. It was complete bullshit. Like, I was the one that offered him. I said 20 videos, 4k, gives me 5k, and then every year from there on it was 10k, which was fair. And like, he'd given me payments separately to that too, to like assist me every now and then, which I was always grateful for. But it just built more and more of this like attachment to him, where I was like socially and financially stuck to him. But you got to realize too, by me editing for him, I neglected my channel for years, so I couldn't actually be self-sufficient. I was fucking myself over at the same time.
And that is the issue. Like, there's a lot of and he didn't like it when we had one of our conversations that I said that he was doing workplace abuse. And abuse is not a nice term to throw around, but in all honesty, if you do look at all the interactions, if you do look at how he treated you and me, there's no other word for it.
Absolutely. My example I gave in my like video and stuff, and all the notes I've made, is that I've said, like, you know, if this was a normal boss in a normal work situation, he would literally get in trouble, because it's beyond the idea of like, all right, Seth's unhappy because let's say we take too long with something. Like, he's literally abusing his position of power and like abusing people mentally. I mean, you got told too by some of the animators to like actually get away from him, because they said within the first month of working with him, they said, this dude's crazy, I'm not working with this guy.
Let me put it to you this way as well. Certain people said they wouldn't work on the project again if he was still in charge, specifically.
Oh my god. Here's something interesting that you told me that I think is really necessary for this this interview here. You had actually told me that the majority of your psychologist appointments, to be more specific, was in relation to working with him. Like, he had stressed you out that hard.
Yeah, it was worrying about him, worrying about how work should be, worrying about my interpersonal relationship with him, and then other drama that he might be causing. A majority of my sessions were on that.
I felt that I was so trapped socially and so trapped with him financially with my channel that I was like, I just thought no one would believe me, like, with my situation. I was just like, well, I've got no family I talk to. I've only got online friends that I associate with nowadays as an adult. I was literally just so suicidal that I was just like, well, this shit, man. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, Charlie knows pretty, you know, he knows me pretty personally, and like, he had countless conversations with me where I was like, dude, I can't work with this guy anymore. Like, I'd actually rather just get in drama and actually go at him than like deal with this. And that was the truth. Like, it got to the point where I was really just like, this is too much. Like, I've been through too much bullshit and been way too loyal to him and defended him to have him just slander my name and bullshit about me. And the dude was being an actual scumbag towards me. And when you told me that, like, you would actually had to go to a psychologist because of him is just crazy, dude. Like seriously, it's just
Well,
insane to hear that. And
to be fair, I went to the psychologist primarily for my own things initially, but most of the sessions always did revolve and devolve into talking about him.
and ironically, he had made fun of your mental health towards me in private many a times,
Yeah.
which was not cool. Let's see. So you had told me too that your actual family members had even warned you. Was who was it? Sorry, who was that specifically? It was your mother and girlfriend, right?
Mother, girlfriend, little brother. So I have two brothers, one sister, and my mum thought that it's something I shouldn't be dealing with and to move away from him, which I took advice. And my girlfriend specifically saw how much pain it was causing me, and she was like, I don't want you dealing with him anymore, or if you do, which is your own choice, it's your own life, she doesn't want to hear about it anymore because it was hurting her too much.
Yeah, one of my female friends was at my house last year, and she was worried about me because she could see that I was very unresponsive, like I was very, very in my own head, and she was like, you okay and stuff, and I was like, I was just sitting there just thinking about like how much bad stuff was going on all the time, bro, like seriously, like, it was always just like, can't wait for Schizo Man to randomly start tweeting about me or doing a stream about me all the time, like that was what it was, and I'm like, is this dude really my friend, man? Like, because I was doing nothing like that to him. I was avoiding talking about him on stream. I was hiding people from the comments that talked about Naruto versus Ichigo. I specifically stayed away from war power scaling while not being on the project to make sure that, you know, the stuff that I would say wouldn't be spoiled before the video comes out. So many things I was doing that I didn't have to do. Like, other people would be like, nah, fuck that dude. I'm just going to do it anyway. I was doing it just to be nice, man. Like... And it was like so much pressure being associated with him all the time, even while not actually being associated with him at the time.
Well, and also one thing I want to say whilst we're sharing all this is like the main reason that I feel we are and have to is because there is the opportunity that he could do it to other people. There is the fact that we shouldn't really have to stay quiet because the things that have happened and gone on, he's wronged a fair few people, and this is the only way to learn from it.
Yeah, honestly, absolutely, it's the case. I think a lot of people that would be listening up to this point in the video would, you know, your eyes are open to what was going on behind the scenes with the project, but you also get to know the nuance of like the people actually working with him, and this is not a rarity with him. Like it's people on Discord, people getting into drama with him. You know, your friend Surfbone, who, you know, you actually got to see him slander in DMs and talk endless shit about. Like, it was one of the catalysts to me realizing that I didn't want to work with him anymore. I personally, and I'm going to say this too for clarity, I actually didn't like Surfbone. I thought Surfbone was corny. He used to annoy me in VC. And even still, during the stuff where he was getting falsely accused of rape, I was like, no, this is not cool, bro. This is not cool.
Yeah.
Also, seeing Noodles get treated like that and used as a pawn for this swag debate that Seth instigated was complete bullshit, dude. Like, I knew for a fucking fact the whole time that Noodles didn't do fucking anything wrong, and it was all propped up by Seth instigating that shit and lying about Noodles. That's why in the recording, when you hear Noodles go crazy at Seth and he's like, you did this to Chuck, you did this to Clyde, you did this to fucking everyone, like when he's going off like that, it's because he is legit livid at Seth because he got set up. And like, just like Surfbone did your friend, you know, and you obviously thought like nah, that's wrong, man. Like he can't treat Surfbone like this. Like I know him pretty well.
I agree. Initially, I was trying to find like some way of peace, like maybe it was a misunderstanding from him or whatnot. But hearing about all the things that he's done to so many other people is, I don't know. This is one of the only ways to deal with it.
Yeah,
I think.
I mean, you know, for the majority of the time I was working with him, he was keeping screenshots of a girl that lied about her age to me and catfished me, and was trying to use those as like, oh, look what I got on my PC, bro. Like, why would you even keep those, man? And the funny part was like, he was aware of it and never spoke about it. So even if he did talk about it, it's like, dude, you're aware of it the whole time, but it's just fun. Then he tried to equate like my involvement with the Tipo stuff and probably thought that was a gotcha up his sleeve, like my ex-audio engineer that I met in his server, by the way. Let's clarify that. Met in his server, right? Turned out to be keeping a girl's age secret. So I went to the police and reported him to the police and got all the information together and took care of the majority of that shit. Yet still, he was probably thinking like, oh, if Clyde pops off at me, I can use that as something to get at him too, but he can't because I have all the proof of it, which is even more funny. I was just so paranoid and stuck in my position with him that I thought I was sort of fucked, to be honest. But yeah, like you said, it's like it's one of them things where it's like the reason it needs to be talked about is in case he does it to more people, and he definitely will, and I know he has because I know he has because he also did it to a certain girl that I know, and that's really funny. But anyway, that aside, let's stay on track with this. All right. The abuse through calls and messages. Now, we have talked about this a bit, but I want to just put clarity on it. So I've dealt with like plenty of that over the years. Lots of like random like shit stirring messages to cause me problems all the time. You know, he'd always pop off at me randomly if he was in a bad mood. I mean, you tried to be his psychologist and be a really understanding and kind person. And like I once had a call with you that went for like 8 hours where we just talked about life and my series, and I really appreciated how attentive and nice you were. And you had done that to, you know, to him probably like what?
I've done it to him at least 5 that I can say. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's all I can remember, to be entirely honest. But they were very long, drawn out conversations that would last days. Which is fine. Because when I care about someone, that's what I want to do. And if it was a way of helping him out of this pain that he seems to be in, I would have done it. And that's why I did.
I tried too many times too. I thought he and I could relate because we both had very terrible childhoods, and you know, I won't say the contents of his childhood. I'm not going to expose that because it is private, and I'm not a douchebag like that. However, I thought that he and I could relate, and apparently not, because he is a one-man army and thinks that he is the main character of this world, and it's very cringe, so I wasted a lot of time trying to relate to him. And we did sort of talk about this too, but I mean, you said it yourself, like, he thought the project was cringe, he was like barely even caring about it. When it comes to having calls, you know, wasn't really attentive, so that made your work even more difficult. Would you say that him also being unattentive made work for the other animators really hard too? Because I can remember a lot of times like that.
Yes. Yeah, there was a few times where he was unattended to people. There was specifically one cleanup artist we had early on who did everything correctly, but Seth, for example, thought things looked different when they were cleaned and coloured, which is just part and parcel of not having worked with artists all that much. But yeah, there was times where he wouldn't check people's work, he wouldn't check my work for ages, and I couldn't move on forward. I'm trying to think if there were other times as well.
I think I spoke to a couple of the animators individually where they wanted to get stuff checked, but it would really depend on, like, well, obviously I'd be down to chat with any of them, and I'm going to be way more, you know, kind, let's be real. So they were more keen to speak with me about certain changes if you were in call too. I feel like that was the dynamic that worked the best. But it did seem like when I spoke to what's your friend, the one with the Doom AVI, the one that you introduced me to recently?
Oh, Alex.
Yeah, so Alex and I had talked about this, how he said that he didn't want to even have any direct interactions with Seth because not only was getting payment too hard, but also the actual work stuff was way too sort of intimidating because he didn't want to have to deal with his, like, you know, meanness in calls, so he'd rather just have it go through you and then, you know, it comes back to him.
Yeah. There's been times where Seth had been unfair to people. So he'd been unfair to Alex, and Alex just ignores it. Alex is not the type to deal with that sort of thing. So afterwards he was like, yeah, I don't want to work on the project unless Seth isn't doing it. And there was another time with our background artist where our background artist was looking for feedback and to be paid, and Seth flipped out on him because he was in a game.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, he was in call with me, and he's like, look at this dude fucking just messaging me like this and shit, man. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, just hit me up and I'm playing. Can't he see I'm, like, fucking busy doing something? And, like, he popped off so hard. The animator literally just hit him with an update. He's like, yo, here's this update. Does this look good and stuff? And I do remember that because I was there in the call when he did it. He fucking went off on that, man. Like, that was...
Yeah.
That was silly. That was so silly.
Specifically to me, that person said they were a bit worried about messaging him again. But that person is as kind as can be. And he, for clarity, he wasn't like spamming the guy or anything. He sent him 2 messages across a week, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, it just wasn't right or fair.
Yeah, I do remember he was saying he was going to delete that guy. He said he was about to kick him out of the project, and the same goes with that Oba guy. Is that his name? The one that was the
Fan Oba.
Yeah, he really didn't like whenever he'd have an input that was that had, like, you know, any sort of, like, what he can, you know, what he constituted as attitude. He's like, I'm getting rid of this dude. Like, he thinks he's better than us and stuff. Let's get rid of him.
Yeah. And, like, specifically with Tom, it was that he thought Tom was slow or would cost too much, which, again, is Seth not being used to working with artists of different disciplines. Obviously, background painting takes a lot longer than animating certain scenes. For example, one painting can take up to 8 hours, so that's one background. And Seth would be confused, obviously, as to why, say 10 backgrounds cost as much as 20 seconds animation, for example.
The problem was that his instant thought every time was paranoia, like towards everybody. Like he always thought the artists were trying to like rip him off in some way or another, and he wasn't like being fair about it. I mean, it was pretty much to the point too where like, sorry, you initially agreed to be lowballed out of passion for his work and him back in like 2016, 17, and then 18, but he actually kept doing it to essentially the point where like you had missed out on job opportunities that were going to pay you even better. Isn't that right?
Yep. Well, before I go on to that, one thing I do want to say is that all the artists on the project that I specifically spoke to, so for clarity, that's maybe 4 of them that I was speaking to consistently, had all at some point in time said, "Oh, I'm worried how he's going to be," or not even that, just I want to give him this because it's a lot of hours that I've done, but I want to get this done. They would all give him work for free at some point. So that's Tom, that's Alex, because they were concerned that he wouldn't be happy with how much they'd done, and I consistently did that as well through the project, despite being on half my normal rate. And sorry,
so I guess we can go into that a bit more. So some of them too, I do recall him saying that he wanted basically them to show what they could do before they would get into real payment work. Well, I think that was a thing that happened more than once. You recall that? Like that he was like, show me what you can do, then I'll pay you.
That was at least twice. He'd pay them at a lower rate, and then if they did full-time work on his stuff, he'd then give them a higher rate. But sadly, with how low the lower rate was, they couldn't really just quit their other jobs, do that full-time, and then get the full rate.
Yeah, they were also intimidated to ask him for money too, because I remember this being something that happened, and your friend Alex had reiterated this to me last night about how when you guys tried to set up a better way for animators to get paid by Seth, which was through like this online banking thing, which was secure and so on, he didn't want to fuck with it, and he wanted to just do it through PayPal, which means PayPal takes a cut, so he'd have to get paid through you instead, where Seth would pay them on PayPal, and then you would Seth would pay you on PayPal, and then you would pay them because it was less stress.
Yeah. So they would have to specifically send it to me to send to them, because either their PayPals, for whatever reason, would mess up, and PayPal itself isn't stable. It would take a cut, and they wouldn't get the full amount they were owed. I had to end up being a middleman for that as well.
Yeah, I remember trying to get him into anything new, or try to deal with like technological problems was basically impossible. Like it took me a very long time to convince him to buy a new PC, and I was like, bro, all your issues when it comes to games are going to be fixed, and then he did it. When it come to fixing his Patreon when he couldn't get access to it, he was going crazy and cool about that, and I was like, dude, you just got to be patient. Like, reply through email. They're not trying to steal your money, man. Relax. Like, they literally can't legally do that. Like, you'll be fine. And just stuff like that was really bothersome, and he was always extremely paranoid about ever telling anyone what his name was and stuff. So if you were to sign up with that whole bank account stuff, like, it was something that probably would have never been able to work anyway, because he would probably think it was some sort of ruse.
Well, that's the funny thing. Talking about that, we had a production management software that we paid for. We were paying for it from our own cards, and we just charge him more. But we were like, look, you need to be in charge of it, because certain people in the project who are running this aren't going to be on the project the whole time. And he was unwilling to, because he thought it was a scam in which we try and get his details. And we had tried showing him that it was something that everyone uses, and that we don't have access to it. And there was also with that whole online banking thing that Alex mentioned, it's because he wouldn't use his real name on that online banking, so they declined him.
Yeah. For him to sign up for that, it wouldn't have worked anyway, because he would have given them false details. Yeah. He used to be extremely paranoid about clicking the links too. If I'd link him something, he'd always be like, I bet there's an IP logger and stuff. And like, you'd think it was a joke at first, but he was like real weird about stuff like that. It was funny because like he found out my full name through Google Hangouts many years ago, and he would repeat my name to me like in a joke, and he'd be like, oh, Mr. And I'm just like, like, if someone wants to get you, they'll get your details, dude. Like, you're not hidden from the internet. It would not be hard, and that's what I always said. I'm like, I'm not scared. If a hacker wants to fuck with me or some bad motherfucker wants to get me, he'll find my shit. So, like, I'm only causing him, what, an extra day's worth of work? Like, wow, that's really going to stop him. So, that was always really funny. But, yeah, with the paranoia towards stuff like that, yeah, I guess that would have made the work for the animators quite hard because they were, one, scared to ask him for money. Two, now to get paid, they're also thinking, like, am I even going to get paid? 3, they have to go through it with you. And then 4, you were talking about how the animators that wanted to be, like, self-sufficient based on working with him, because then they're like, all right, I got secured work, I'm on this project. Well, that was unreliable too, because at any point he could just be like, F the project. Yes. So that was risky too on their behalf, but they still did him favors, like doing free work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all true.
Alright, so this is something interesting that you told me. So you had told me that not only were you getting, lowballed financially by him, and you were doing it out of passion and love for the project, which is good. I think that some of the other animators also really did love the idea of the fight, and that's why they were so willing to. Isn't that right?
That is true.
Alright, so there's that. But you had also said to me that you lost a job opportunity which paid more than Seth was, and you did this for him, and then he ended up f***ing that up for you anyway, because you were like, I won't do that job, I'll work for you, Seth, and then he messed you around, and then you were sort of fucked, right?
So I initially started looking for a new job because he had been on and off about replacing me and so on, which is totally fine. So I had found a new job. I was working with them part-time for 3 months, and then I was going to go full-time. The reason I was working with them part-time is because I told them about the project I was doing with Seth, and that I'd hopefully wrap up everything within those 3 months, that he wouldn't need me anymore, and it would just be cleanup and color work, and the other freelancers could do the tie-down stuff. It got to the point by the end of the 3 months where I was at this company doing... So, I should specify, I'm actually a concept artist by trade. I'm not actually an animator, but I became an animator because of... this project, basically, because of Seth and his passion for
I can say actually that over the years, bro, like your animation went from, like, it was always good, like your ability to draw and so on, but you've now become like the kind of animator where a legit Japanese studio could pick you up and you would be able to do a lot of work.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Well, yeah, so that's the thing. I managed to get a job in a company that paid well, that had me as a concept artist, the thing I do. And the thing I love doing more. And I even had the potential opportunity to become lead artist there. By the time the 3 months were up, the project hadn't finished, or I hadn't finished my stuff on it, even though I was doing lots of work for both. I decided that I couldn't leave the project, the audience, or Seth because I owed them it being finished. So I decided to have faith in Seth and the project and leave that company. In leaving that company, I got another part-time job from a friend to help sustain me, so I wasn't entirely, what's the word?
Dependent.
Dependent on Seth. And within that month, Seth cancelled the project. So I left that good, well-paying job and the thing that I wanted to essentially finish the project, and the project was then cancelled thereafter.
Yeah, I remember he when we had drama in 2018 and I was trying to pay him back, and he was saying to Trini that even if I paid him back he'd cause me problems. He was saying to people that he was going to attempt to make me homeless, like that was actually a goal of his.
That's not cool at all.
Yeah, that ain't cool. Yeah, it's not very fun. Let's see. Yeah, that's actually funny too. So this is an interesting note that I made too. So you essentially sacrificed that, and I also put a lot of focus on him to the point where I would like neglect relationships and friendships for him, right? And then we become the scapegoats for the project.
Yeah.
Like that's how little he thinks of us, where it's like, see, like with us not talking, he and I not talking for a year, I still avoid talking about him on stream out of respect and just trying to be a decent person. But with him, he's like, the second that we get cut off, he's like, go fuck those guys, like seriously fuck them. Like it just really weird behavior, but that's not cool at all, man. That's not cool.
Yeah, for our real lives to be affected over something like this is it's not fair. Only when we tried to do the best for everyone involved.
I was actually working with him so much that I got invited to go out to a nightclub with some friends in 2019, and I remember asking him beforehand if like he would mind if I would take an extra day or so off. I was like, yo, I'm not going to be available like for that night. Like, is that cool if I can, delay the Kingdom Hearts video by a day or so? Because it actually didn't need to be rushed out. And I asked him, it's like, bro, I'm like asking a father for fucking permission to go out. Like, but it's like, dude, I should be able to do these things anyway and be like, I can't work on that day, but I'll get to work afterwards and stuff. But I was doing stuff like that. And I also knew too that I couldn't even have like an actual IRL real relationship because I wouldn't even be able to dedicate the time. I had to be like 24/7 involved with this stuff too. So it went just further than like finances and job stuff. But like Omar said, he missed out on a job, and like Seth was like literally actively trying to make me homeless in 2018, and I was still loyal to the dude. I even oh god, it's just so weird to think and look back at all the bullshit that went on and how he's gotten away with it for such a long time. But I guess one thing that is really annoying is the repetitive like rinse and repeat of causing you and I problems, coming back, being nice, and then causing issues again. That was a very continuous thing with myself, but also with you, wasn't it? Where he would like pop off at you, but then want to be nice to you afterwards, and like that honestly did make working with him quite stressful because you'd have to walk on eggshells around him.
Yeah,
when you were
the fact it was primarily the fact that he'd just pop off at nothing. That was the thing that was hard. So, for example, like with the music guys, him being angry that they wanted just to make sure that everything was above board and fine, him flipping out over that and insulting people and just being entirely unprofessional, so to speak. It just made it almost impossible to work with him. It was like walking on eggshells. I couldn't even ask him simple questions sometimes, and other animators couldn't even contact him sometimes because he might just flip out.
Yeah, that's true. I know that's from my understanding with the music guys too. What was their main concern? They just wanted to make sure the legalities were okay with the music. Isn't that correct? Like,
yeah, that's it. That's all they wanted to do, to make sure that they had the right to reproduce this music and share it. That's it. That's all they wanted to do. So like, that they wouldn't get done for using other people's intellectual property. That was all. And because he was unwilling to do that, or even talk to them about it, there was an agreement met. And they were completely fine to recompose it to be in the style of, but not have some of the same melodies. But because of Seth's unwillingness to talk about it and go through that issue with them, it just fell apart, and we sadly lost them.
wow. Yeah, I guess they would have been like, nah, I'm not dealing with this, because he was really against the idea of like any of that stuff with like the legal part of the music. Because in the music industry, you have to be really careful with stuff like that. Like, because if they don't have like written signatures or proof that it's like theirs, like they could lose the access to the music itself. Like it's like not technically even their own. So I can understand why. Also, wasn't it dependent because on where they lived? Like where they lived also made the legality stuff like a bit more hyper specific.
Yeah. Yeah, so they live in England with me. So not with me, but we all live in England. So there's a few like weird things about even doing covers over here. So it needs to be make sure that you have the right license for that sort of thing. It was something that I was completely oblivious to before this whole thing. So it was something we were working through with them, and they had professional lawyers with them advising them on this. So it's probably best to take some of their advice, or at least talk about it. If Seth did know something they didn't, talk to them about the thing he knows. But sadly, there was never a conversation.
Yeah, no, he
about
just
that.
popped off at you instead. So there is one final question, and this isn't even like a gotcha kind of like a haha fuck you Seth. Like, this is actually a legit question, because a lot of people out there want it to be done, and he's trying to use the project now as some sort of fuck you to you and I, and he also wants to manipulate people and be weird. So here's a legit question: does he like actually legally own the project?
No, he does not. So yeah, I just wanted to leave that no to pester for a little bit. So there was no contract written up between me and him about who owns the project and why. The only contracts that were written up were written by myself with other animators saying not to break the NDA, and that any monies lost to Seth for it would be reincurred. There's nothing saying or stating that he owns the project, or any work that I have done with him that he owns. and vice versa. So technically the project is not owned by him. The only reason I wanted to initially put it on his page is because I like to be a man of my word and finish it on there and that more people see it. But considering I have to wait to see how much more information comes out about the actual monies and how that was spent and where and why, unless he can prove that he did put a majority of the money in himself, I just morally I can't give it to him.
That question is more so for the audience, actually, because his assumption is, Clyde's trying to weasel his way into taking over the project, but the audience wants to know what's going on, and they obviously wouldn't trust him with the project now, so, like, that's the truth. He also had said verbally through messages to you to, you know, like, fuck off and do whatever the fuck you want with it and so on, too, and again, it's consistent with how much he really just didn't care about it at the end of the day. It was cringe to him, so, yeah, I mean, he said He said that he doesn't care about the project and I can do whatever I want with it. It's not his. But then he flip-flops on that sometimes. Now, that is also a very important question because it also allows you to stop being called a scammer, because that was a on-running narrative that people were saying, who's this Omar guy? Why is he, like, taking over and doing this? He's trying to steal money from people. Like, no. If anything, Omar is more than right to actually be like, yo, I want to make a GoFundMe and continue this for the fans, and... yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still now even doing work on it for free when I technically don't have time, because I still believe that everyone deserves to see it. And in all honesty, it is a cool project, and I do want others to enjoy it.
Now, I have no intentions to ever work with Seth ever again in any format whatsoever, and it'll never happen, especially after a video like this or the other video I've made. But if I was ever needed to assist with it, I'm down for it. Why not? You know, I don't give a fuck now.
Yeah.
I've been pushed too far. So if I'm ever required to assist with this, I will do my absolute best to help out as much as possible. And it's actually quite funny. Actually, the Loki probably doesn't even own it because he just like with all the legalities involving the music and the management of everything else he doesn't pay attention enough to what he's doing. So kind of shot himself in the foot with that.
It's not necessarily a gotcha. It's more just a let's actually get the project done in a way that everyone wants and actually have it done rather than being locked in some kind of weird power, I don't know, prison. Best example I can come up with. But yeah, it's best for someone like you who's passionate about the project and us to get it done right than it to be left in limbo forever.
Yeah, because the big issue here is that he has said, he's like, if it's going to be done, it has to be done by me, but he's literally doing everything in his power to make sure it doesn't get done because he's f***ed you and I over. Like, why would we actively want to work with him? So that's screwed. And then, like, all the fans have been lied to, and we've been slandered now, so, like, I'm never working with him ever again. Like, fucking fuck
Likewise.
you. Yeah. Respect. But I guess that's it. We're pretty much going over every single thing. I guess, like, any other questions that people might have about the project, you can just ask in the comments. I mean, like, just go ahead, guys. Ask whatever you want about the project. This is the most transparent version of the situation. I guess the main thing he's probably going to say is he's going to over-exaggerate, like, oh, I paid these guys, I was good to them, I helped them out and stuff, and it's like, alright, whatever, you can have all the credit in the world you want for that, I don't care, but this is the truth of the situation. We have kept it lock and key, you know, unspoken for a very long time, but the fact that he has talked about us on more than one occasion and lied to the audience means that we have to clear our names. I did not get into this YouTube stuff and work my ass off for so many years to have my shit slandered by someone that could not give a fuck if I blew my head off tomorrow. Like, he literally couldn't care, so that's... There you go, that's the situation. Omar, thank you very, very much for joining me on this video. Thank you for saying your piece and actually having the balls to do this, because a lot of people would be too scared to do this, and it means a lot that you actually spoke to me like this. And thanks for trusting in me, man. Like, thank you very much for trusting in me. I've never had any bad intentions for you.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you for giving me a voice and speaking to me and allowing this clarity to come out. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for joining me, and I feel like that... You know, the last time you tried to talk about even stuff like this vaguely with, like, Surfbone, you know, you were instantly accused of being a rat by him. So I'll say this too at the end of the video, guys. And now, I'm not saying right now that I'm, like, going to step in and take over. I'm saying that if the people want it and the opportunity is presented, I'll happily assist as much as I can. I have no interest in making money from the project. It's going to be strictly from you guys. I would just be a director. That's it. I would literally just direct it and oversee the project. If you want to support it, all the stuff is linked below. All the finances and stuff will be managed by Mr. Omar. That's the GoFundMe. So please go check it out. Go support it. Seriously, I have no intentions of gaining from this in any way whatsoever financially. Go and help him out. Go support Omar. It's linked below.
Yeah, please help us finish this project. Thank you.
All right. Have a nice day, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye.
I also want to add this at the end for the sake of clarity. So I actually invested the payment that I got from Seth, which was over a year ago now, and I put it all into a brand new PC so that I could edit faster for both he and I. So if anyone is curious where the money went, it actually went back into our work. I didn't use it for any greedy reasons or anything like that. It actually went back into everything that we do. I also really do want to stress that the reason that I continued to accept work with him, especially payment, was because it was easier to work with him instead of going through drama, because I didn't think that many people would take my side because he is such a manipulative